Hi everyone. My name is Arvind. I also have Dr. Murray Jensen from the University of Minnesota, who is a pioneer in active learning using guided inquiry. I'll be handing over to him shortly after I give you a spiel about Lrnr. Um, so today we're meeting to talk about active learning using guided inquiry with collaborative group activities and also cooperative quizzes. Um, just go to the next slide. I'll talk a little bit about quick facts about Lrnr, and then I'll hand it over to Dr. Murray. So Lrnr, we are a social impact. We are on a social impact mission to democratize the cost of course materials and without compromising the quality of education. We build personalized courseware, homework solutions, and classroom engagement tools that align to OER, predominantly OpenStax. And we also have an all-inclusive library of personalized courseware. Hopefully by 2025, we expect to cover most of 100 to 300 level courses, and it'll cost the students $80 per year. We build custom courses that align to your pedagogy so that you don't have to, when you're, let's say, for example, you're teaching, Biology 1 and Biology 2, and you're using OpenStax for Biology for majors, you don't have to have your students access all of it for your course. So we build custom courses for you. The formative content we have built is from the ground up. The questions and activities are built from scratch, so we do not use any of the OSX banks. We have LMS integration into pretty much all the major LMSs with single sign-on and gradebook sync. Every single student gets access first day of class, especially those students who have to depend on financial aid. Our customer support is excellent. We have 7 days of customer support, especially during the first 4 to 6 weeks of class. And then after that, six days a week. And we also believe in giving back. So 5% of our revenues is set aside to help poor students. So instructors usually identify the poor students who cannot afford even the $40 that we charge, and we give it to them for free. These are all the courses we have. I don't want to dwell into it to give more time to Dr. Murray. We have some amazing activities and questions. We have adaptive quizzing and so on and so forth. These are some of the screenshots that I've taken from various courses. We have algorithmic questions. We have histology slides. We have virtual labs. We have 3D activities. We have cadaver-based activities, and so on and so forth, depending on the courses you teach. And so let's talk about learner-student engagement in the classroom. We have something called live polling. If you've already used Top Hat or Kahoot or any of the other platforms, you're pretty familiar with, lecture slides and live polling. You can embed activities within your lecture slides or within your quiz or live poll, even on our platform. It doesn't cost the student anything more. It's the same exact price. On top of that, I met Dr. Murray during the last HAPS conference, the Human Anatomy and Physiology conference, and we both have love for education and love for cars and Formula One and all of the above. So I had the pleasure of meeting him and understanding that he was one of the pioneers in active learning. So we started this small project, which is guided inquiry learning group activities, and we built a whole bunch of features. Along with that, we also built features on cooperative quizzes. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Dr. Murray, and then I'm going to be the silent guy that will move the slides.
Yeah, he pushes the button when I say next. So I'm Murray Jensen, and I've been teaching anatomy and physiology for about 1,000 years. And anatomy and physiology is known for having students learn a lot of facts. And this is frustrating because they think it's all about memorization. But in the last 10 years, anatomy and physiology is starting to adopt social constructivism learning view. And that man up there, Lev Vygotsky, he's the founder of what's called social constructivist learning theory. And this is about how to take all those facts and put them into a concept. And so conceptual learning is kind of the buzzword that we use. We want students to learn about homeostasis and information flow much more so than, you know, a bunch of bones and a bunch of muscle names. But this is a new way to kind of go about your classroom, and I find it much more enjoyable. But what is a concept? A concept is something that humans use to describe, control, predict, and explain events in nature. So like in the body, how do you explain a high temperature or a low temperature or disease or health? But we use concepts to make sense of how the body works. And in physiology, way down there at the bottom of the slide, you have a core concepts in physiology. But Joel, Michael, and a whole bunch of other people have been pioneering identifying the core concepts. And then people like myself and Carrie Hull and Ron Garretts, we've been writing curriculum to complement these core concepts. Next, please. So a constructivist classroom, what are you looking for? So in a constructive classroom, you have students engaged in conversation. They're talking to each other. Many of us have been using PowerPoint for years, and I still use PowerPoint, but I have far fewer slides. And what I'm looking for is trying to get students to talk, to engage in conversation. I want noise. And when you hear students engaged in conversation using the language of the discipline, you know they're learning. And your job as an instructor now is to provide prompts to get them to converse. And I got to mention now that this is not just chaos, it's organized. And you put students in small groups. Small group learning is key to constructivism. And in these small groups, we always have we always have roles to be identified. Next, please. Now, constructivism can be kind of messy. And it's important to kind of, draw a line between doubt and confusion. You're trying to get students to talk and to figure things out, to figure out how the body works in my case. But sometimes you can go too far and you can get your students confused. And confusion happens when they have no hope. It's just like, I give up. But doubt is kind of like a magic trick. And you look at it and you go, I think I can figure out how they did that. I think I can figure out how homeostasis works with the control of body temperature. But doubt is what I look for. My job is to instill doubt in my students and then let them work together to, quote, figure it out. And that's probably my favorite line in learning is figure it out. I want you to figure out how the body works. Next, please. Okay, today we're going to look at two things, two ways that I promote learning. One is through a curriculum item called guided inquiry. And then the second item, which is way at the end of the presentation, is an easy way to kind of get started, which is cooperative quizzes. Next, please. So as I mentioned previously, the groups that students are in always have roles. The students are going to have roles such as a writer, reporter, director. And at the beginning of the class, I always assign students these roles. And then after they are assigned roles, they start to engage in an activity. Now, what we have here is an activity called Inside and Outside the Body. And it's an activity that I wrote many years ago, and it's highly used. It's used as an example of conceptual learning. And if you were to look at this and kind of make an objective, you say, this is the role of barriers in the body. It's an anatomy lesson. But inside and outside the body was the first lesson that we kind of put into this Lrnr platform where students use a computer and devices to get through the activity. All right, this slide is loaded with information. So I got to step back and just take a break and go, wow, what's all going on here? First of all, you see that the Lrnr platform can accommodate 3 different platforms. On the left is a tablet. In the middle is a regular computer. And then on the right is a mobile device. And I'm always surprised at the number of students that use mobile devices in the classroom to go through activities, but it works just fine. Another thing you see here are the 3 different roles: writer, reporter, and director. Those are the 3 most common group roles that my students have when they do these activities. Now, when the activity comes up, everybody sees the image, which is a really odd image that shows some lungs and a digestive tract and a urinary system. Only one student sees the question, though. The reporter sees the question, and I'm going to read this out loud. Using your mouse or finger, trace the pathway that a food particle would follow from the beginning to the end of the digestive tract. And so the reporter reads that out loud. And then the writer is the person that actually draws that blue line. They're able to use their finger or a stylus to trace the path of food. And while this is happening, all three students see that line as it moves through the digestive system. But this is the student view of a guided inquiry activity, and we call it GILGA, Guided Inquiry Learning Group Activity. But GILGA is an acronym that we'll be using quite a bit today. Next, please. Okay, along with the student view, what the students see, the instructor, what I see is a summary screen, such as this one. This is a view where I see six groups as they progress through the activity. And this specific item shows the lines that they have drawn through the digestive system. And if they have it right or if they have it wrong, and then I can go over to that group and help them out if needed. Next, please. And along with kind of the pictures, I can also look at kind of a progress screen. And this screen shows the groups, A, B, C, D, as many groups. I think I usually have about 20 groups in my class. But as they progress through the questions, as they progress through the activities, I can see who's answered them correctly and incorrectly, and also how far they are, if they're speeding through the activity and they're going too fast, or if they're too slow. And so with this screen, I'm able to identify those different progress patterns, and then I'm able to go intervene where needed. And students still raise their hands. They still come on over here and help us. And when that happens, I go over and give them clues. And this is another sign you're in a constructivist classroom. You don't tell them the answer. You tell them clues. You tell them hints. And sometimes you nod and say, yeah, you're on track. But you don't stop the discussion. What you want is to get students to talk. Next, please. All right, so when I'm building curriculum, when I'm making activities, I've got all sorts of different question types I can use. Probably the most common I use is just fill in the blank or type an essay, type a sentence. But I also have multiple choice, and something I'm using more and more is sorting. It's just like list the orders of the nephron in order. And so you're able to do all sorts of different question types. And then students can engage in these question types to, again, the big goal, figuring out how the body works. Next, please. All right, cooperative quizzes. This is a second way to promote guided inquiry. But our first type was just regular curriculum. Now, this item, cooperative quizzes, is a form of formative assessment. It's not summative. This is nothing I would do solely to figure out students' grades. This is another group activity. But a cooperative quiz is a good first step to inquiry and constructivism. And it's what I recommend new teachers starting with. If you're a new instructor to this world of guided inquiry, this is where I recommend starting. But a cooperative quiz involves two components. The first involves an individual quiz, just like everybody has done in their classroom. It's just like students come in, sit down by themselves, and complete an individual quiz. They do not help each other. But then after they complete the individual quiz, they go to a group mode. And I should mention they have to turn in their individual quiz first. But then in group mode, which we use the same GILGA settings where students are reporters and recorders, they engage in the quiz again, but this time they do it as a group. And after it's completed, after both the individual and the group modes have been completed, the scoring works by averaging the two scores. So I usually give 15 questions on a quiz. And so individually, if they get a 10, and on the group, they get a 15, which is common. Usually the group gets a perfect score in my class. They would get an overall score of 12.5. They split the difference. But I see the 12.5 in the grade book. All right, next, please. All right, just like GILGA, I have progress screens. So in this case, I've got student names over at the right, or excuse me, at the left. And I can see if they're answering questions correctly or incorrectly and what question they're on. And as students progress through this, I usually make announcements about how much time is left or where people are at. But when all group members finish the 15 questions, they then engage in the group portion. But if one person is slower than the others, I might have to implement a time component and say you have 1 minute left in order to keep everybody on track. But usually in my class, 15 minutes, that's enough time to have the individual component and the group component completed. And during the individual component, it's quiet. Students are quiet. They're doing their quizzes. But during the group component, it's noisy, and because they're trying to figure out answers, and they've got a stake in this one because they're getting graded on it. But my students historically have really enjoyed co-op quizzes in terms of a learning activity. It's not a summative assessment. I really got to hit that. But I use these once a week in my class. I have cooperative quizzes. Next, please. All right, some advantages of the Lrnr platform and what we're looking at here. But with GILGA, I'm able to reduce and even eliminate the number of paper handouts in my class. Historically, my handout packet, which is my curriculum, is about 300 pages, and that's a lot of paper. And I can put that all on GILGA now, and so that's a big, big plus. Something I was really surprised with is the technology as a catalyst. And Arvind and I and the programming team at Lrnr have been working hard at kind of figuring out these group role things. And the idea that only one student sees the question and gets to read the question, that's a real plus. Because students can't move ahead or stay behind. They all have to stay together. And there is quite a bit of conversation between the group members, which again is what I like. Power dynamics, this one's interesting. Everybody knows that group dynamics can be problematic. And sometimes there's students who don't talk. Sometimes there's students who talk too much. Sometimes there's loudmouths. And this makes group learning kind of a difficult task to manage as an instructor. But with GILGA, I'm able to really neutralize the power dynamics. It really works well in terms of getting students to know their roles and to behave properly within a group. The devices down at the bottom left, everything works. I'm impressed with that. I don't know how they do it from a programming point of view, but it works on a phone, it works on a tablet, and I use my laptop. I bring a laptop to class and I'm able to see everything just fine, and that's the real-time metrics. I can use my summary screens and can see exactly where students are. If they're almost done or if they need more time. And then this final one, I have not tried this platform virtually. I teach all my classes in a classroom, and I'm loving it, especially after COVID. I like the fact that my students are in my classroom. And so I use it there, but it's pretty clear, it's very clear that this setup can be used remotely or in a virtual classroom quite easily. Let's see here. I think that's it for that slide. Next, please. All right, so this is a slide showing my students using the Lrnr platform. And they are talking, they notice they're not even looking at me, they're looking at each other. Well, a few of them, I guess, are looking at me. But they are talking, they are looking at the screens, and they are engaged in conversation using the language of the discipline, which is exactly what I want. All right, time to open it up for questions. And who's moderating the questions, or how do we entertain this?
I can look at the questions, but it's...
Is that attendee chat?
Yeah, I think Irene Gould, she said, I don't see any slides. I only see the first opening slide. Where to see the slides, please?
So if you go to the Q&A box, you will see that we do have two questions that people put there. And again, please put your questions in the Q&A box, and our guests will be able to answer your questions at this time.
They are.
There you go.
I see one question.
Yes. I see a lot of questions in the chat. I think that I'm going to, it does integrate with Canvas. Yes, it does. And I mean, currently we are providing it as part of the OER, the package that we have, which is the homework solution, the OpenStax textbook, and the live polling and GILGA are combined. Within a few months, we'll also have a standalone version where you don't really have to, if you don't want to use the homework solution, you could still use just the live polling solution along with the COP quizzes as a module. Tan Lee, is it free? It is free for you. For students, as they pay their subscription fee for the homework solution, this is part of it. So there's no separate fee for the GILGA activities when you're adopting any of the courseware from OpenStax with Lrnr. This is included in that package.
What's the learning curve for the instructor? Should I answer that one, Arvind?
Oh, absolutely, because you're the
So as we work through this, we're coming through. We're recommending changes to the program to make it easier to use. But I will say there is a bit of a learning curve because it's just like, what does this button do? How do I go back? How do I stop the individual quiz and start the group quiz? But every day it gets better, so the progress of the software is impressive. But like everything, it takes a little while to learn. But now it's pretty much just, I know what button to click to do what I want to do. So I'm going to say, yeah, it's pretty decent. It's pretty decent. Just like Canvas, just like other learning software, it's going to take a little bit. What's the next question? Is it for K-12? Do you see that one? Arvind, do you have anything for K-12?
Well, I mean, K-12, again, like I said, in a few months, we'll have it as a standalone product. So, and especially for AP courses, OpenStax does have AP courses. So if you're talking about, advanced placement courses, then we do have AP courses and you can use it along with it. But like I said, we will have it as a standalone platform as well so that you can actually use it.
I might be opening up a can of worms here, but there will be advanced placement anatomy and physiology offered in the next couple of years. That course is being developed now. So that would work with the Nat Phys.
Yeah, there you go.
Can you import pre-made quizzes from Word or PDFs? Arvind?
Yes, you can import from. So what do you want to import from? I'm sorry, I didn't see the question. Where is it?
Or PDFs, and I think the answer is PowerPoint. That's how you import content is through PowerPoint. Is that right?
It's PowerPoint or PDFs. That is to import your slides, and then to build activities, we have an activity builder, and you can use that to build your activity. There any short-term, long-term plan to include the power of AI in the development process and content? Yes, we do. We're already in plans on building an authoring mode where we can help instructors generate questions using OpenAI. Again, we're debating whether it's OpenAI or whether, from Databricks or is it ChatGPT-4. Because everybody's kind of competing in that space, and we are looking at different models and figuring out which has better accuracy. But yeah, the answer is yes. Hopefully within the next 6 to 9 months, we plan to implement it in our internal authoring itself, and then once we know that it's good enough, then we'll expose it to instructors. And by the way, Jonathan, Dr. Murray is, from a technology standpoint, he is not the, I mean, he doesn't use a lot of technology, so it takes him a long time
Careful, careful. No, I agree with that. You know, so at my age, I don't pick up software as quickly as others. And I will be honest, I much prefer, lack of technology. I think I enjoy life more when I'm not looking at my phone or at my computer. But I will say, with the Lrnr platform and the GILGA that we're using, it facilitates face-to-face conversation. It actually improves it in the classroom. And then I think, it's surprising to me, but one of the biggest advantages of this is just controlling group dynamics. Everybody plays a part. You don't have one student looking out the window. You don't have another student being a loudmouth. Everybody switches roles during these activities, and everybody knows what to do, and that's nice. So it really helps with managing group dynamics.
Gotcha. I think that, so Jonathan says that I currently do guided peer review, which is similar to GILGA without any software, just PowerPoint and Canvas. Yeah, I think even Dr. Murray, he used to do handouts, and with PowerPoint, and I don't know. Well, with Canvas, you do have something, but it's not. None. I mean, I've not seen any software yet that's designed from the ground up for group activities, and that's where we because once we met Dr. Murray, and we literally looked at how he conducts the guided inquiry activities in his classroom with paper handouts. We literally went back to the drawing board, designed this whole thing from the ground up. So you see a lot of the features we've built that is just designed for group activities. It's not something that, oh, there's a polling thing and you're trying to make do with it. We have roles. We have 6 different roles for students, and every single role has a distinct purpose. I think what you did not see, which I'll probably put here again, is so if you notice, not this one, sorry, this one, you'll notice that other students do not see the question. This is the biggest kicker. Every student has to listen to the reporter read the question out loud. So the reporter gets the voice to read the question to the rest of them. And then the writer is the only person who can actually answer the question while everybody else is just waiting. And then there's confidence level settings, which you can enable or disable as an instructor. So let's say other students do not want to, do not agree to what these two, reporter and writer, has to say. They might say, I'm not very confident about your answer. And so the instructor, like Dr. Murray, can monitor all these, both the confidence level and also what's going on in the group, and try to understand the power dynamics. But what's pretty interesting here is the reporter keeps changing. So every single role keeps round robining. So the next time, for the next question or the next activity, the next student becomes the reporter, and then the director, switches out, and the writer becomes somebody else. So essentially, by switching roles continuously from activity to activity, every single student gets a voice, and they're forced to listen to the reporter. The writer is forced to record the answers that is discussed by the group, and then everybody gets to have a say in whether they agree with the answer or not agree with the answer, and then the thing repeats itself.
The smallest group you can have is 2, and it's a reporter and a writer. And then you can go to 3, 4, 5, and I never have groups bigger than 5. 3 is probably my favorite number. And then 4, you get roles like a doubter, somebody who says, are we sure of that? You can get an encourager, and when my students always call it the obnoxious encourager, it's just like they're cheerleading and they're, come on, guys, we can do this. But they have fun with that one. But yeah, group size, I think our maximum is 6. But our smallest you can do is 2, and 2 works. 2 works great for a cooperative quiz. And I kind of recommend, you know, maximum group size of 3, smallest group, of course, is 2. How do you assign students to groups? In my class here at the University of Minnesota, I assign groups based on the college that they're in. So I have an engineer working with a business person, working with a liberal arts student. You know, so I like the heterogeneous grouping. I cannot have all my engineers together, all my business students together. That's what they want to do. But the discussions are better when you mix them up. And that's kind of real world stuff. You teach them how different people think. You know, so it's, you know, how does a business student solve this problem? How does an engineer solve this problem? And then there's writing involved too. And I pick on my liberal arts students that they got to help everybody learn how to improve their writing skills.
So I'm just sharing my screen, just showing you, you know, a group activity called Bratty Kid. And I just picked a mode, the group activity mode, or I can pick the standard mode or the quiz mode. And typically what Dr. Murray does is, you know, he has a student-paced beam. Beam is from Star Trek. You know, I say beaming instead of presenting. It's the same thing. And you can select your groups here. So you can either pre-select your groups or randomize your groups.
Arvind, I don't think they're seeing your screen.
I believe they are. Because on the right-hand side, they just have to click on it.
Okay.
And they should be able to see it. So, and then here, you can randomize your groups, and you can decide the number of students, the number of students per group. So if you say that's 4 students per group, you can either make it manual, and once you have created a group, you can keep reusing the group, you know, from the previous week. I think, Dr. Murray, you do it for half of your semester. You kind of keep the same students together to kind of increase the bonding and trust and all the other soft side of things.
We rotate groups after every exam. So after every exam, we have a day where we get new groups.
Yep. And then, you know, once you select, you can create the groups. And as students join, you know, they turn green. And then once that is done, all the groups get populated. And you can delete empty groups and so on and so forth. So yeah, again, we onboard every single instructor, so you don't have to memorize any of this. We onboard every single instructor and make sure that they're at least, you know, can run one group, and we'll be with you in the class, within the class virtually. Obviously, I'm not gonna fly over everywhere, but and make sure that you guys are better suited. I mean, you're situated and you understand how this whole thing works, and then, you know, we're always there to help you out if you want to implement it.
And I'll add, you know, that the support behind this is terrific. When students have trouble with their software or something's not working, they go to the chat room and people are right there right away. So I will, you know, kind of want to emphasize the level of support. It's excellent.
Yeah, how is it different from, say, Active? I'm not sure if Active. I'm not too sure. I know that Active has great chemistry courses. I'm not really sure about their ability for group activities, specifically in guided inquiry. The best thing I could say is, why don't you schedule a demo with us, look at what we have, and then do your own comparison and see whether this suits better for you or for your students. Jennifer Sherman made a comment: group dynamics are handled with complex instruction. Research out of Stanford University.
I don't know what complex instruction is. That's a new word for me. Anybody know what that one is?
I am not an academic, so I cannot address that question, unfortunately. No. I think Jennifer Sherman mentioned that, so I am not sure what that is.
So are there any more questions? I don't know how this thing proceeds or wraps up.
Kagan, cooperative learning structures. I don't know, Jennifer, Jonathan mentioned something about that. Jennifer did say your software brings together the components I've gathered. I'd love to try out your math courses. For sure, please schedule a demo and we'll be able to showcase both the math course along with guided inquiry. And we can also help you build some of the activities or models based on your needs. Complex instructions, rotating roles within groups and then changing groups. Yeah, that GILGA does very easily.
Yeah, and I was fortunate enough to be a student of two of the big mentors in cooperative group learning, David and Roger Johnson, who are professors here at the University of Minnesota. And so I kind of know group dynamics more than most anatomy and physiology instructors because I have a background in it. But that's spot on, rotating roles and making sure every student gets a chance to speak up. And the job of the instructor is to, sometimes shut down the loudmouths and getting the students who are introverts, especially getting them to speak up in a classroom. And it can be intimidating. Classrooms can sometimes get a little too noisy for some people, but it's for me, it's very enjoyable. But students have told me that the noise in the classroom is just exhausting, which I just kind of say, if you're at a loud party at night, there's people that get more energy out of a loud party, and there's people that get drained in a loud party. But my classroom is noisy, and I don't apologize for it. That's what I want.
Yeah, and like I said, Jennifer, you can set it up in such a way that you can have every single activity, the role being rotated after every single activity, or the role being the same for every single model or for the entire session. I think what Dr. Murray, you rotate the role every activity, right? Every single question, you rotate the role.
Well, at the beginning of my class, for a table, I assigned a manager or a director, and then that person has to do a lot of, assigning of tasks. But then that takes, after about the first week, they know the different roles and they know exactly what a reporter does and what a writer does. But at the beginning of the day, I start by assigning one person the director role, and then they're able to kind of manage the groups. And that takes a lot of the kind of the micromanagement out of my hands, which I like. But they learn what managers do. They learn what directors do. That's a plus. Along with learning your bones and muscles and function of the digestive system, they're learning some what we call executive skills.
Yeah, and yeah, I think you're right, Jennifer. The rotating roles, because on Lrnr you can set it up in such a way that after every single question the role rotates. You get to set that, and I think Dr. Murray basically has the rotating roles for every question. So if he has 15 questions in the group quiz, the roles change 15 times.
Yep, that's true. I rotate every question.
Yeah, that way. Yeah. But thank you so much. And if anybody else wants to, I think we are kind of at 45-minute mark. If anybody else wants to reach out to us, this is the best way to reach out. Lrnr.us/demo, or you could even send me an email. I'm gonna type my email here, and also so you could reach out to either any of us, and we'll be more than happy to schedule a personalized demo and then take you through the paces and let you know more about what we have. Thank you so much, and Kissa, it was wonderful again, as usual.
Thank you. We want to thank everyone for, spending time with us today, and to Lrnr and to Dr. Murray for an amazing webinar and for being a wonderful OpenStax ally. And if you have further questions, as he just said, please contact them directly with the information he provided, or you can contact OpenStax directly as well. We look forward to seeing you at future OpenStax Ally webinar. Please, please, please enjoy the rest of your day. It's been a pleasure having you today. Thank you and enjoy. Bye-bye.
Bye, Kissa.
Bye-bye.